The Legend of Heroes: Trails in the Sky is an RPG that was released in Japan in June of 2004 for the Windows operating system. It was ported over to the PSP and released in the US of March 2011. It follows the story of two characters, Estelle and Joshua. They are non-related siblings raised by the same man. When their dad goes missing, Estelle and Joshua take over his responsibility as bracers, or mercenaries. What begins as doing insignificant jobs around town turns into investigation into the whereabouts of their father, a missing airship, a school festival, and a plot involving the Queen. The graphics in the game are great. For 2004, they are slightly outdated today, and you're stuck with sprites that turn their bodies to talk, and small portraits of characters during talking sequences. The scenery and tile sets in the world are expansive enough that you'll appreciate how much effort was put into the world, and the weaker graphics are an afterthought and shouldn't restrict your overall experience. In each town, you have the option of picking up optional quests on a billboard for your Bracer Guild. When I say optional, I don't necessarily mean optional. Although you have the choice of doing side quests, it's necessary to do them, as the only way to get money in this game is to complete them or sell inventory. The quests consist of the usual killing a monster or collecting an item for someone. One of the benefits of having a quest-oriented game is that you can pick up the game for 15 minutes at a time and feel like you were productive. The story has been listed as complex by IGN and GameSpot. I somewhat disagree. The overall plot can be summarized quite easily. What the game does a great job at is executing the plot. You'll be thrown in prison, fight in a battle arena, and find a medicinal plant to save someone. Some cliches are in this game. Let me warn you though, this game is heavily driven by dialogue, character development, and triggered events. The game is saturated with character dialogue. Every 10 to 15 minutes of action is another 30 minutes of reading. They did a wonderful job at translating the game into English. There isn't just a typical interaction between the characters of the group where everything is somehow relevant to the plot. There are dozens of external characters and tons of events that take place around the world and are pretty irrelevant to the plot and are only used to help orchestrate the variability of the world. One of the characters that enters your party is a bard who flirts with both sexes and had me laughing and chuckling throughout the game. Possibly one of the funniest characters in game I've ever played. Estelle, the main female protagonist, is sort of the grunt of all mocking and jokes in the game, and it's always cute to see her reactions. The male protagonist, Joshua, is as one-sided as most male protagonists are. He's predictably virtuous until his morality is challenged by his dark past. They invest so much time in creating this world with intriguing characters, they unfortunately sacrifice pacing. You'll find yourself bored at times, mashing your buttons trying to hurry through the constant intrusive dialogue and unnecessary scenes. I was waiting throughout the game for something big to happen, and it unfortunately doesn't really come until the very end. The developers could have done a better job at creating a little more intrigue throughout the game. You'll find yourself backtracking and wandering around town to speak with the right NPC quite a bit. The second part of the game are the battles. I also found them to be slightly lacking. It's a turn-based battle system, but instead of just choosing an action, you're placed on a small grid where you can use a turn to move around, attack, use a skill, or cast a spell. I never felt personally challenged throughout the game. The only time the game made you struggle was towards the end. If you die, you have the option to retry the battle from the beginning with no real consequence. The game tries to keep you on the level it wants you to be on. New areas will give you enough experience where it's reasonable to gain 1 or 2 levels. After that point, the returns of experience are so low that gaining levels becomes unrealistic, and it's time to continue on further in the game. Along with gaining experience, you gain orb mints after each battle. There are 7 types of orb mints. Orb mints work like this. After you collect orb mints in battle, you can buy quartz or open up slots on your characters. You'll put the quartz in your character slots. These quartz alter your character stats somehow. And if you equip the right combination of quartz in your slots, you get to use spells in battle related to the element of the quartz. As with all games, I ask myself, is there enough customization that my characters differ from someone else's characters? The answer in this game is no. There has been some gaming controversy over the relationship between the two protagonists. Joshua frequently calls Estelle sister, and they grew up together in a family dynamic. There is a romantic chemistry between the two throughout the game that could be considered incestual. Estelle is a young 16-year-old girl who is confused about her feelings. All she knows is that there is an attraction to her non-related brother. The game does a great job at creating an authentic conflict between their relationship, and it never feels inappropriate or taboo. The game is part of a trilogy, so the ending is a to be continued. Unfortunately, there is no word on whether the sequel is being translated and released in North America. Its fate is still to be determined. I'm overall quite conflicted on this game. I enjoyed how deeply expansive and well-crafted this game was, but I also felt the game could have done a better job at engaging me in both its battle system and plot. If you're patient enough to work through the generic quests, irrelevant subplots, and constant dialogue, I salute you, and I think you will find this game rewarding. It sold me enough that if they choose to release the sequels, I will most likely play them. I give this game a conflicted rating of 8 out of 10.